Hello friends, welcome back. In this tutorial we will study about selective repeat automatic repeat request protocol. It is a sliding window protocol, right? Now this protocol, it also uses two windows, send window and receive window. Now what happens in this protocol? In this protocol, the size of send window and receive window is same, right? The window's maximum size can be 2 raised to power m minus 1. And what is this m? Here m is the number of bits allowed in header of the frame for sequence numbers, right? So if m is equal to 4, then the sequence numbers go from 0 to 15, right? The sequence numbers will be from 0 to 15, including 15 also, but the size of window is 8, right? The maximum size of window is 8. Now as here you can see this send window. Here in this example we have considered the value of m is equal to 4, right? So here the sequence numbers are from 0 to 15, right? And the size of window is 8. Here you can see this send window, right? Here in this example we have considered the value of m is equal to 4. Now let us see the receive window, right? Now see here, the receive window is same as the size of the send window, right? In this protocol the size of send window and receive window is same, right? Here in this example we have considered that m is equal to 4, so the size of send window and receive window is same, that is 8, right? So what happens in this protocol? This protocol allows as many frames as the size of the receive window to arrive out of order, right? And these frames are kept until there is a set of in order frames to be delivered to the network layer, right? The receiver never delivers packets out of order to the network layer. So what happens in this protocol? In this protocol, one timer is started for each frame sent, right? One timer is started for each frame sent, and at sender negative acknowledgement or an acknowledgement frame may arrive. If a valid negative acknowledgement frame arrives, the corresponding frame is resent. If a valid acknowledgement frame arrives, then what happens? Stop the corresponding timer and move the left wall of the window, right? Now in this protocol, timeout event is simpler. What happens? Only the frame whose only that frame which times out is resent in this protocol, right? In this protocol the timeout event is simpler, right? Only that frame which times out is resent, right? And what happens in this protocol? What happens? Acknowledgement are sent when data are delivered to the network layer at the receiver, right? Now it will be clear after this example, right? Now suppose the sender has sent the frames with sequence numbers 0, 1, 2 and 3, right? Now when this frame with sequence number 0 arrives at receiver, it is accepted by the receiver and receiver sends an acknowledgement for this frame, right? Now what happens? This frame with sequence number 1, it is lost, right? This frame with sequence number 1 has been lost, right? So what happens when this frame with sequence number 2 arrives at receiver? Receiver will not discard this frame, receiver will accept it, right? Receiver will receive this frame with sequence number 2, right? But what it does, it will send a negative acknowledgement, right, for frame with sequence number 1, right? It will send a negative acknowledgement for a frame with sequence number 1, right? Because this frame with sequence number 2 is out of order, right? Now what happens when this frame with the sequence number 3, right, it arrives at receiver, right? Then the receiver does not send the negative acknowledgement for frame with sequence number 1, right? Because it has already sent the negative acknowledgement for frame with sequence number 1, right? So what happens? A negative acknowledgement is sent once, only once, for each window position and defines the first slot in the window, right? Now when this frame with the sequence number 3 arrives at receiver does not send the negative acknowledgement for a frame with sequence number 1 again, right? Because it has already sent the negative acknowledgement for a frame with sequence number 1, right? Now when this negative acknowledgement for frame with sequence number 1 arrives at sender, then the sender resends the frame with sequence number 1, right? Now what happens when this frame with sequence number 1 arrives at the receiver, right? Receiver will receive it, right? Now what happens, now the receiver will send the acknowledgement, right, with acknowledgement number 4, right? Now the receiver will send the acknowledgement with acknowledgement number 4, right? Now here you can see that a receiver has not sent the acknowledgement for frame with sequence number 2, and for this it has not sent the acknowledgement for the frame with the sequence number 1, right? It has directly sent the acknowledgement with the acknowledgement number 4, right? Now what happens, why it has not sent these acknowledgements for frames with sequence numbers 2 and for the frames with sequence number 1, right? Actually what happens at the receiver, right, in this protocol what happens at the receiver, right, when data are delivered to the network layer, only then the acknowledgement are sent, right? Now what happens at the receiver, there are two conditions for the delivery of frames to the network layer, right? So first condition is that a set of consecutive frames must have arrived, right? Now the second condition is that the set starts from the beginning of the window, right? Now what happens in this case, when the frame with sequence number 2 has arrived, it was received by the receiver. When the frame with sequence number 3 has arrived, it was also received by the receiver, but it cannot send these frames to the network layer because frame with sequence number 1 was missing. So when the frame with sequence number 1 arrives at receiver, right, then what happens, both the conditions are satisfied and these 3 frames can be sent to the network layer at the receiver. So the receiver will send these 3 frames to the network layer, and after that, after these frames they have been delivered to the network layer, right, then the receiver can send the acknowledgement. So now the receiver has sent the acknowledgement with acknowledgement number 4, right, and it means that the frames up to sequence number 3, right, have been received by the receiver and they have been delivered to the network layer by the receiver, right? So in this protocol, if the data belonging to n frames are delivered in one shot, then only one acknowledgement is sent for all of them, right?